Before we dive into this wild ride, drop a quick hi in the comment section. It might feel like a tiny thing, but trust me, it makes a huge difference. That simple hi tells YouTube to share this story with even more sci-fi fans, more dreamers, more explorers just like us. I'd honestly love to see where you're tuning in from. Are you watching late at night with headphones on, or blasting this on a speaker while imagining the galaxy burning? Either way, say hi. I'll be checking.
The silence in the void was deafening. Commander Velrith of the Korthani Dominion stood on the bridge of the Eternal Judgment, his 6 eyes fixed on the holographic display that stretched before him like a window into the abyss. For 300 cycles, the galaxy had burned. Empires rose and fell in the span of solar rotations. Entire civilizations were reduced to ash and memory. The Great Galactic War had consumed everything, billions of lives, thousands of worlds, and the very fabric of interstellar civilization itself. But there, at the edge of the spiral arm, one small blue world remained untouched: Earth. Velrith's mandibles clicked in what his species considered amusement. The humans had watched it all unfold from their lonely corner of space, their primitive telescopes and radio dishes picking up the echoes of a war they couldn't possibly comprehend. They had been visited, of course, a single diplomatic vessel decades ago, offering them a choice: join the Galactic Coalition or the Sovereignty Alliance. Pick a side. Contribute to the war effort. The humans had done something no other species had dared to do. They had said no. Not with weapons. Not with threats. They simply declined, as politely as one might refuse an invitation to dinner. They declared their system off limits, established a defensive perimeter, and went back to their isolated existence. The audacity of it had been almost charming at first. The galaxy's major powers had been too busy destroying each other to worry about one insignificant species clinging to their single star. But now the war was ending. The Sovereignty Alliance was on the brink of total victory, and Velrith's fleet had been tasked with one final mission: bring every system in the sector under Dominion control. No exceptions. No neutrals. Prepare the subjugation fleet, Velrith commanded, his voice resonating through the bridge. We move on the human homeworld at first light. His second in command, a younger officer named Thrace, shifted uncomfortably. Commander, the humans have shown no aggression. Their defensive fleet has never crossed their system boundaries. Perhaps we could what? Velrith's eyes narrowed. Allow them to remain a pocket of defiance? A symbol that species can refuse the Dominion's authority. He leaned forward, his claws clicking against the command console. The war is nearly over, Thrace. The new order requires absolute unity. The humans will join us, or they will be erased. Thrace fell silent, but Velrith could sense his unease. Good. Young officers needed to learn that mercy was a luxury the galaxy could no longer afford. 30,000 light-years away, Admiral Sarachin stood in the war room beneath the Rocky Mountains, her eyes scanning the same holographic displays that had become her constant companion for the past 5 years. The room was carved from solid granite, designed to survive anything short of a direct antimatter strike. Around her, dozens of analysts and military personnel monitored the feeds coming in from the outer system defenses. "They are gathering," said Colonel James Morrison, the head of strategic defense. His weathered face was illuminated by the blue glow of tactical displays. 300 ships, maybe more. The sensor arrays picked them up, assembling at the heliopause. Sarah didn't respond immediately. She had known this day would come. They all had. When you sit out a war that consumes the galaxy, you don't get to stay neutral forever. Eventually, someone comes knocking. "How long?" she asked quietly. 72 hours until they reach effective weapons range. Maybe less if they push their drives hard. Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of 3 billion souls pressing down on her shoulders. Earth had stayed out of the war not out of cowardice, but out of principle. While the great powers had slaughtered each other over territory, resources, and ideology, humanity had focused on building something different, something better. But principles don't stop invasion fleets. "Alert the defense network," she ordered. "Bring all orbital platforms to full readiness. Recall every patrol ship to the inner system. And Morrison, yes, ma'am. Activate Protocol Midnight. Morrison's face went pale. Admiral, that's an order, Colonel. They want to cross the line? Let's show them what happens when you threaten humanity's home. Would you stay neutral if your entire world hung in a balance? Could you watch a galaxy tear itself apart and resist the urge to take sides? The humans had, but that choice was about to cost them everything, or prove them right in ways the galaxy had never imagined. The Eternal Judgment sliced through space like a blade through silk, its escort fleet spreading out in a crescent formation that had shattered defenses on 100 worlds. Velrith watched as Earth grew larger in the view screen, that tiny blue marble that had somehow escaped the war's devastation. Scan results, Commander, Thrace reported, his voice carrying a note of confusion. The humans have approximately 47 capital ships defending their system, mostly cruiser-class vessels. Nothing that should pose a significant threat. Weapons. Primitive kinetic accelerators, fusion warheads, directed energy weapons. Standard Level 3 technology at best. Their orbital defense platforms are more numerous, perhaps 300, but they're stationary targets. Velritha's mandibles spread in satisfaction. The humans had spent decades preparing for this moment, and this was the best they could manage? He had destroyed fleets 10 times this size before his morning meal. Open a channel, he commanded. Let's give them one chance to surrender. The view screen shifted, and after a moment, a human face appeared. Female by their dimorphic biology, with dark hair pulled back and eyes that held no fear, only a cold, calculating intelligence that gave Velrith pause. I am Commander Velrith of the Corthani Dominion, acting under the authority of the Sovereignty Alliance. Your system is hereby claimed in the name of the New Galactic Order. You have one cycle to surrender your ships, dismantle your defense platforms, and prepare for occupation. Refuse, and your species will be added to the long list of the extinct. The human, Admiral Chun, according to the data feed, didn't blink. Commander Velrith, I am Admiral Sarah Chun of the United Earth Defense Force. We have remained neutral in your war for 37 years. We have asked only to be left alone. Why break that peace now? There is no peace in neutrality, Velrith replied, his voice hardening. There is only the illusion of it. The galaxy has been reforged in fire, and every species must take its place in the new order or be swept aside. You have one cycle. We need more time to evacuate civilians. You have one cycle. Velrith cut the transmission, returning his attention to his fleet. Prepare assault formations. When the deadline expires, we begin with orbital bombardment. Target their military installations first, then their population centers if they resist. Thrace hesitated. Commander, the Galactic Conventions prohibit. The conventions were written by civilizations that no longer exist, Velrith snapped. Begin the countdown. In the war room, Sarah turned away from the dead communication link and found every eye in the room fixed on her. They were looking for hope, for confidence, for any sign that she had a plan to stop 300 warships with 47. Protocol Midnight is active, Morrison reported. All systems are green. Stealth packages are deployed and holding position. Sarah nodded slowly. Protocol Midnight. The contingency plan that Earth's finest military minds had developed over 3 decades, constantly refined, constantly updated, never tested in actual combat. It was a plan born from a single, terrifying question. What do you do when you're hopelessly outgunned by an enemy you can't match in conventional warfare? You change what war means. Have we heard from the outer colonies? Sarah asked. Mars, Europa, and Titan confirm compliance with the protocol, said Lieutenant Chen. The deep space research stations have gone dark as ordered. All civilian vessels have been recalled to Earth orbit. Sarah pulled up a holographic display showing the solar system, each defensive position marked in blue, each enemy ship marked in red. The red vastly outnumbered the blue. By any conventional military analysis, Earth didn't stand a chance. But humanity had stopped thinking conventionally a long time ago. Send a system-wide broadcast, Sarah ordered. This is what we've prepared for. This is why we stayed out of their war, not because we were afraid to fight, but because we were saving our strength for the fight that mattered. They think we're primitives cowering on one small world. Let's show them what humans can do when you threaten their home. The room erupted into motion, officers rushing to their stations, communication links lighting up across every military installation in the system. Sarah watched it all with the calm of someone who had made peace with what was coming. Morrison, one more thing. Ma'am, make sure the message drones are ready. If this goes wrong, someone needs to know what happened here. Someone needs to know that humanity didn't go quietly. Morrison's jaw tightened. It won't come to that, Admiral. Sarah wished she could believe him. The cycle passed in tense silence. Aboard the Eternal Judgment, Velrith watched the countdown timer tick toward 0, waiting for the humans to see reason. They had to know this was hopeless. Every species that had refused the Dominion had learned the same harsh lesson. Pride was a luxury the weak couldn't afford. But the humans sent no surrender transmission. Their ships held position around their planet, a pathetic defensive shell that wouldn't last 10 minutes against his fleet's firepower. Time's up, Velrith announced as the timer reached 0. Begin the assault. Target their orbital platforms first. I want clean firing solutions on their capital ships within, Commander. Thrace's voice cut through with an urgency that made Velrith's spines rise. Sensor contact. Multiple contacts appearing throughout the fleet. What? Where did they come from? Unknown. They weren't there a moment ago, and now, Thrace's voice went up an octave. They're inside our formation. The tactical display exploded with new contacts. Not 47 human ships. Hundreds of them. Small craft, appearing seemingly from nowhere, materializing in the spaces between Velrith's warships like ghosts resolving into reality. Stealth technology, Velrith hissed. They've been here the entire time. All weapons, free engagement. Destroy them. But the human craft weren't attacking. They were just sitting there, silent and still, scattered throughout his fleet formation like seeds planted in fertile soil. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the human admiral. Velrith snarled. Put her through. Admiral Chen's face appeared again, and this time, Velrith saw something new in her expression. Not fear, not even anger. It was something far more dangerous, certainty. Commander Velrith, I gave you a warning. We asked to be left alone. But since you've decided to cross the line, you shouldn't have. Let me explain something about humanity that the rest of the galaxy seems to have forgotten. Your tricks won't save you, Velrith growled. You have more ships than we thought. Congratulations. You'll last 20 minutes instead of 10. These aren't ships, Commander. Chen's smile was cold as the void. They're mines. And every single one is currently attached to the hull of one of your vessels. The bridge went silent. Velrith's eyes darted to the tactical display, and now he could see it. Each of those human craft was positioned right against his ships, magnetic clamps holding them in place like parasites. You're bluffing. Even if you detonate them, we have shields. Your shields are designed to deflect energy weapons and kinetic projectiles fired from a distance, Chen interrupted. They don't work against something that's already inside your defensive perimeter, something pressed right against your hull. She leaned forward. Each of those packages contains enough antimatter to crack open a battleship's reactor core. And they're all networked together. One signal from me, and your entire fleet becomes a debris field. Could you imagine it? Spending decades preparing for a war, building weapons not to attack, but to ensure that anyone who threatened your home would pay an unbearable price? The humans hadn't been hiding in fear. They'd been preparing a trap. Velrith's claws dug into his command chair. You wouldn't. You'd be declaring war on the entire Sovereignty Alliance. They would glass your planet from orbit. Maybe, Chen acknowledged. But you wouldn't be alive to see it. And every fleet commander in the galaxy would know that attacking Earth carries a cost. We stayed out of your war, Commander. We didn't build fleets to conquer. We built defenses to survive. But survival doesn't mean we're helpless. Thrace leaned close to Velrith. Commander, we should withdraw. Regroup and silence. Velritha's roar echoed through the bridge. He stared at Chen's face, seeing the resolve there, the absolute certainty that she would push that button if he called her bluff. You're threatening mutual destruction. That's not a victory. No, Chen agreed. But it's not a defeat either. You came here to conquer us without a fight, to add us to your empire like we were just another resource to be claimed. But we're not. We're humanity, and our homeworld is not a prize for your collection. You want it? It'll cost you everything you have. The bridge was silent except for the ambient hum of the ship's systems. 300 vessels, representing the might of the Korthani Dominion, held hostage by a species that wasn't even supposed to have advanced technology. What do you want? Velrith asked, his voice low and dangerous. I want you to leave, Chen said simply. I want you to take your fleet back across the heliopause, return to whatever empire you're building out there, and forget Earth exists. We'll continue to stay out of your war. We won't interfere with your territory, but you leave us alone. And if I refuse, if I call your bluff and attack anyway, then in 15 seconds, 300 antimatter charges detonate simultaneously, and neither of us walks away from this. Chen's expression didn't change. Your choice, Commander. Make it quickly. Velritha's mind raced. She could be bluffing. The humans could have positioned those craft as a scare tactic, counting on him to back down. But if she wasn't bluffing, if those really were antimatter charges, then he was about to lose the single largest fleet in the Dominion's arsenal. All because of one primitive species that refused to kneel. Admiral, Thrace whispered. We have confirmation from engineering. They've scanned the human craft. They're detecting antimatter containment signatures. She's not lying. Velrith felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of warfare. Genuine fear. Not for himself, but for the realization that he had drastically miscalculated. The humans weren't primitive. They were patient. They had spent 30 years watching the galaxy's great powers perfect the art of destruction, and they had learned every lesson. Stand down, he ordered quietly. All ships, withdraw to the heliopause. Maintain defensive posture, but do not engage. Commander. Thrace sounded shocked. Do it. Velrith snapped. We're leaving. On the view screen, Chen nodded slowly. A wise decision, Commander. Your ships can withdraw. Once you've crossed back beyond our system boundary, we'll retrieve our defensive packages. No one needs to die today. This isn't over, Velrith warned. The Dominion will not forget this. Neither will we, Chen replied. That's the point. As the Korthani fleet began its slow withdrawal, the war room erupted in barely contained celebration. Officers embraced, tears flowing freely, the tension of imminent death replaced by the euphoria of impossible survival. But Sarah Chen didn't celebrate. She watched the enemy ships receding on the tactical display, her expression thoughtful. Morrison approached her, his own relief evident. We did it. They're leaving. For now, Sarah said quietly. But Velrith was right. This isn't over. We've just announced to the galaxy that Earth has weapons and technology they didn't expect. We've made ourselves interesting. So what do? Sarah finally allowed herself a small smile. What we've always done, Colonel. We prepare. We adapt. And we make damn sure that the next time someone crosses the line, they remember what happened here. She turned to face the room, raising her voice. Listen up, everyone. We won today, but the war hasn't ended out there. The galaxy is still burning, and now they know we exist. We need to accelerate Project Frontier. Double our efforts on the Deep Space Early Warning Network. And someone get me the engineering teams. I want to know if we can miniaturize those antimatter packages further. Admiral, Morrison said carefully, are you saying we should prepare for more confrontations? I'm saying we should prepare for anything, Sarah replied. We stayed out of their war because we believed there was a better way. But staying out doesn't mean staying weak. Today we proved we can defend our home. Tomorrow we prove we can defend our principles. The celebration continued around her, but Sarah's mind was already racing ahead to the challenges that would come. The Korthani wouldn't forget this humiliation. Other powers would hear about it. Earth's isolation was ending, whether they wanted it to or not. But maybe that wasn't entirely a bad thing. Aboard the Eternal Judgment, Velrith stared at the blue world receding in the view screen. His pride was wounded, his mission a failure. He would face consequences for this retreat. But he was alive, and so was his fleet. Thrace, he said quietly. Everything we saw here, the stealth technology, the antimatter charges, the coordination, record it all. Every detail. Sir, the humans have been watching us, learning from us, for 3 decades. They saw how we fought our wars and designed defenses we never anticipated. Velrith's mandibles clicked slowly. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Because that wasn't the response of a primitive species. That was the response of a civilization that thinks 3 moves ahead. Should we report this to High Command? Yes. Velrith paused. But tell them something else too. Tell them that there's a species out there that refused to join our war, not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough not to need it. And if we ever push them too far. He trailed off, remembering Admiral Chen's cold certainty. Tell them we might have just woken something we're not prepared to face. What would you have done in that moment? Would you have retreated, as Velrith did? Or would you have called what might have been a bluff, risking everything for pride? The line between courage and foolishness is razor thin, and Velrith had chosen to live to fight another day. 6 months later, the Great Galactic War finally ended. The Sovereignty Alliance declared victory, though the cost had been staggering. 1/3 of the galaxy's habitable worlds lay in ruins. Trillions were dead. The great civilizations that had once seemed eternal were shadows of their former glory. And at the edge of it all, Earth remained. The story of what happened at the Sol system spread through the surviving powers like wildfire. Some called it a bluff that happened to work. Others called it the most audacious defensive strategy in military history. A few called it a warning that should be heeded. But everyone called it one thing, the line that shouldn't have been crossed. New diplomatic overtures came to Earth, but this time they were different. Not demands or ultimatums, but genuine offers of trade, technology exchange, and mutual respect. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. Humanity might not have the largest fleets or the most territory, but they had something equally valuable: the will to defend their home at any cost, and the intelligence to make that defense count. Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the same war room where she'd faced down Velrith's fleet, now watching as the first official diplomatic delegation from the reformed Galactic Coalition prepared to land in Geneva. The war was over. A new era was beginning. "Do you think they'll try again?" Morrison asked, standing beside her. "Maybe," Sarah admitted. "But not soon, and not without thinking very carefully about the cost." She smiled. "We stayed out of their war, Colonel. We didn't conquer territory or destroy civilizations. We just drew a line and said this far, no further. And we meant it. The line that shouldn't have been crossed." Exactly. Sarah pulled up a holographic display showing the solar system, with new defense platforms under construction, new technologies being developed, humanity expanding cautiously but confidently into their local space. We're not joining their empires. We're not becoming conquerors. But we're not hiding anymore either. The galaxy knows we exist now. They know what we're capable of. And most importantly, they know we'll defend our home against anyone who threatens it. What's next for us then? Sarah considered the question, thinking about the future spreading out before them like an unwritten book. We keep building. We keep preparing. We reach out to other species that stayed neutral, that didn't want any part of their war. We show the galaxy that there's another way, that you don't have to conquer or be conquered. You can just be. Think the galaxy will accept that? They don't have to accept it, Sarah said firmly. They just have to respect it. And after what we showed them, I think we've earned that respect. Morrison nodded, then saluted. To the line, then. Sarah returned the salute, her voice carrying the weight of everything humanity had endured and overcome. To the line. May everyone remember what happens when you cross it. And so humanity's story entered a new chapter. They had stayed out of the galaxy's war, watching as civilizations destroyed each other in pursuit of dominance. They had been threatened, invaded, given an ultimatum by forces that could have obliterated them. But they had drawn a line, and when that line was crossed, they had shown the galaxy something it had forgotten in 300 cycles of endless warfare. That sometimes the most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the biggest fleet or the most powerful weapons. It's the one who's fighting for their home, who's had time to prepare, who refuses to kneel even when surrender seems inevitable. The Corthani Dominion would rebuild. The reformed Galactic Coalition would establish new governments, new treaties, new alliances. The great powers of the galaxy would continue their eternal dance of politics and power. But they would all remember Earth. They would remember the blue world that said no to both sides. They would remember the species that turned defense into an art form, that valued survival over glory, that proved you didn't need to be the strongest to be undefeatable. They would remember the line that shouldn't have been crossed. And in remembering, they would leave humanity in peace, not because humans were weak, but because they had proven themselves dangerous in ways the galaxy had never anticipated. What would you do to protect your home? How far would you go to defend everything you love? These aren't just questions for stories. They're questions that define who we are as a species. And on that day, when Commander Velrith's fleet came to claim Earth, humanity answered those questions with absolute clarity. We will survive. We will defend our home. And we will never kneel. If you enjoyed this story of humanity's finest hour, please hit that like button and subscribe for more HFY content. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Earth made the right choice staying out of the galactic war? What would you have done in Admiral Chen's position? Let me know below, and I'll see you in the next story, where we explore more tales of humanity, proving that we're far more than the galaxy ever expected. Until then, remember, never cross the line you shouldn't have.